and welcome to this week's episode. So I'm kind of mixing up the content a bit, obviously, as you've seen with things like the my top 10 games and my top 10 GameCube games and my console RTS video and last week's video on Are Games Art, or Can Games Be Art? But you know what I still really like doing the collection videos. I do like the collection videos, so we're going back to brass tacks, we're going back to basics, and we're going to do Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem this week. I will preface, however, I never really got into original Fire Emblem. Pre-waifu era Fire Emblem. Pre-getting your units and being like, these are my units from now on. And the others, and then more as characters, as opposed to like a select few. We'll get to the other one about that later. But I will start. I've been playing Fire Emblem for about 9 years. I will preface that with on and off. I started, as many new fans have, with Fire Emblem Awakening. I really like this game. Like, this is kind of what made me get a DS. This is what got me, you know what? It's what got me back into playing 3DS after I'd sold it a few years ago. I decided, you know what? I liked Awakening. And then I got Awakening again, and I haven't played through it since, which isn't great. I need to, because it's a very, very solid game. It's a very solid game. Excellent characters. Really, actually quite interesting take on your typical Fire Emblem story, which is, there is big dragon. We must save world from big dragon. Oh, we have killed big dragon. That's it. That's it for a lot of Fire Emblem stories. But what I've liked about Waifu Emblem, as a lot of people have been calling it online from what I've been seeing over the last few years, is the twists on that. Taking that concept and kind of changing it in ways that are actually interesting. With Awakening, by the way, spoilers across the board here. Spoilers across the board for the Fire Emblem games I've played, because I don't care. If you haven't played them, go play them. They're out there. They're not extraordinarily expensive. They're up there. They're getting up there. They're getting more up there. So better time than any to grab them. But Awakening went, you know what? Time travel shenaniganry. We're going to throw that in there right off the bat. We're going to throw in this idea that your avatar character is actually associated with the dragon in some way. And not in a good way. Not in a good way. In a bad way. You're its vessel. You're its key to destroying the world. And you know what? As much flack as Fire Emblem Awakening, we'll get to Engage, Fire Emblem Awakening gets for its plot, it's not the worst. It's not the worst of the ones I've played. In fact, I would dare say it's towards the middle bit. It's the middle bit of okay. If you want to talk about bad stories, we're not done. Fire Emblem Fates. We'll freely admit, I was quite interested in this game for the fact that it had kind of a Pokemon thing going on here, and it had an exclusive DLC campaign. Except for the limited edition, but we'll get to that in a minute. Had my attention. In fact, I would argue the best way to play Fire Emblem Fates is not either of these, it's this, so I'm just going to put these down, but yeah. Fire Emblem Fates, to me, its story is not bad. It's not good. It's not good in a lot of in at least 3 of the routes, which is all of them. All of them are not very blanketly well told. There's a lot of stupid decisions. There's a lot of questionable written choices. There's a lot of questionable writing here. But what Fates has the advantage in is its character writing. Its character writing is extraordinarily solid. Extraordinarily solid. Like, I absolutely love every single member of the Norian royal family. You've got female Corin, because that's what I normally play. Xander, Leo. That's embarrassing. Can't remember her name. Bad. Oh well. Camilla, and of course, the maid. Wow, legitimately can't remember her name. Maybe it's in here. That would actually be helpful. No, it isn't. Never mind. But each of those characters has a great deal level more depth than, say, some of the characters in Awakening. By a fair margin. And the ability to kind of pick between three separate routes, be it Norian, Hoshido, or Azura, is very cool. It's not something we'd had in a Fire Emblem game to that point, and that's kind of what punched it so hard in the mouth. That's what made it go, not good. Fates didn't quite land the mark when it came to that. However, it did lay the groundwork for a future game, which I will get to, and that future game is kind of why I bought Fates' limited edition. That ability to play those different routes, that ability to kind of have that physically forever, kind of means that despite the closure of the eShop, I can play Fates how it's supposed to be intended, and that is very nice. It was also 150 quid, which is a lot of money. But yeah, I will still freely admit, though, its writing it's not great. It's not great. Though, Nor, and more importantly, Conquest is definitely my go-to route. It's more gimmicky. Revelations is way more gimmicky, and Birthright is decidedly more standard Fire Emblem fare. That's probably why I'm not enjoying it as much. But Conquest, Conquest really swung it out of the map for me, and swung it out of the field. Swung everything left, right, and bloody centre for me, because it has vastly more interesting characters. It's got a more interesting moral conflict than, we've been invaded by evil army. It's, what if we were fighting as evil army? And being an asshole. Now, obviously, not the best route. That goes to Revelation, because everybody survives. Great, thumbs up. And a lot of people die in Conquest. Indeed, in Birthright. And it sucks. Because it's like, those are characters I care about. Oh, that's Ryuma, that's Hisoka, that's Sakura, that's fucking Izumi. And why is it I can remember all their names but not Elise? Elise! It's Elise. We got there. Elise. I'm really hoping it's Elise or I look like an idiot right now. Anyway. I'm a big fan of Fates. Huge fan of Fates. Big fan of Fates. But it's not my favourite Fire Emblem. My favourite Fire Emblem comes a bit later, but unfortunately sandwiched in between two of my favourite Fire Emblem games of all time is one of my least. Now, Shadows of Valentia, Fire Emblem Echoes, is a difficult game for me to like for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's got my absolute least favourite Japanese trope of all time. My absolute least. And that's the guy who's like, oh. It's that kind of character. Now, I know Celica isn't like that. Through the whole game. But there is a big proponent of that in her characterization. It's that kind of, oh, hero, save me, blah, blah. It's kind of really fucking irritating. I think it most knocked me off in Langrisser 2. Definitely most knocked me off in Langrisser 2, to the point where I went out of my way to join the evil faction just to spite that character. But the fact that it's kind of there in Celica's general demeanour kind of really annoys me. It's also that kind of trope that is extraordinarily cliche in Japanese media. I'm not the biggest anime fan. My anime that I like are very particular. They cannot all look the same. which the vast majority of anime nowadays kind of looks the same. There's kind of a uniform art style to it that's really fucking ugly. Unlike, say, One Piece, or unlike, say, Ancient Magus Bride, or Madoka Magica, or Death Parade, or... what's another one I've enjoyed? Oh, Mashla, or Mushla. Muscles and Magic. Freaking good series. Go watch it. One Punch Man, Dragon Ball Z. No, Dragon Ball Super. Specifically the Tournament of Power. Freaking good. Anyway, getting off topic. A lot of that kind of artwork, or a lot of those kind of tropes, irk me to my core. I can't quite explain it, but the fact that Echoes kind of is full of them, that kind of innocent farm boy who goes on a big adventure to save the princess, it's really boring. It starts with one of my least favourite tropes in games, which is opening the tutorial level playing as children. It's why I've never gotten past the tutorial in Iron Harvest. If I want to play an RTS game, I don't want to play it with freaking snowballs. And if I want to play a freaking Fire Emblem game, I don't want to play as kids. I don't want to play as children. And I think it's a shame, because I've heard so many good things about this. I've heard so many good things about this game. It works in Amiibo, well, in a way that the others don't, in that you can kind of shove in either Mike or Arth. Ike or Marth in there, and they'll appear as illusionary characters to fight alongside you. Very cool. Very cool. And I know Fates was pre-Amiibo, but whatever. But, well, not quite. But pre-Amiibo integration on the DS anyway. And that's kind of why I find it a bit sad that I can't quite get into it. The other reason, unfortunately, despite having an interesting premise of leading to armies, both Celica and Alms, across the continent, the thing that kind of gets in the way for me is dungeon crawling in a Fire Emblem game. Just absolutely not. Absolutely bloody not. Absolutely not. Which is a shame. So we're actually 2 for 3. We're 2 out of 3 on liking Fire Emblem games. Let's make that 4 out of 3. 3 houses. Now, I think a lot of people will flat out go out and die on the hill of best Fire Emblem game. I agree. I 100% agree. And unlike a lot of people, I fucking hate Dimitri. Maybe it's because I played the Black Eagle route first, which I know you're not supposed to do. You're supposed to do it as... Dang, what was it? Oh no, it is Black Eagle. It's Black Eagle, then it's Golden Deer, then... Yeah, can't remember. But... Three Houses is a game I've put hundreds of hours into. I've played through the Black Eagle route like 3 times now. I've played through Golden Deer once. I forced myself to play Blue Lions, and Blue Lions has another one of my least favourite tropes, which is let's drag on the main character, or this side character's mental illness, for an hour longer than it really needs to be. Let's drag it on for an extra hour of him whining and being just generally batshit insane, to then fix it when his mentor/father figure gets brutally murdered as a result of his own stupidity. And I kind of lost all sympathy for Dimitri at that point. I know it's supposed to be Shakespearean, it's very tragic, blah blah blah, but I've played way more tragic games with characters I do like. At the end of the day, Edelgard's a tragic character by a good margin, and that makes her more interesting. Her drive, her wish for something more, to be outside of this role that she's forced herself into. She wants to be able to sit in this hall and just eat lunch with her companions, you know? But she can't do that. She has to be the one to kind of swing the axe and cut the head off of the current system. And in a way, that's more interesting to me than, oh, the voices in my head are making me want to kill again. I mean, shut up. Which is a shame, because it's actually what knocked Fire Emblem Three Houses off my top 10 games of all time. If you've seen that video, go watch it. Again. If you haven't seen it, go watch it with them. But my 5th favourite game of all time is Triangle Strategy. Another tactical RPG that came out last year. And you know what? It kind of does the multi-factional, multi-story, multi-ending tactical RPG thing better than Fire Emblem Three Houses. Because whilst I think Roland is a twat, as he's, as far as I'm concerned, the closest approximation to Dimitri, the kind of too early to be king kind of stereotype with a tragic past that killed his entire family, etc., etc. Whilst Roland is a twat, I don't care about him. Dimitri, I want to, and you're very clearly supposed to. And whilst that may be a flaw in Triangle Strategy's writing, I, at the same time, think it's a huge one where they put so much effort into making me give a shit about Dimitri, and I just don't. And I think a big part of it is his delivery. I know it's the whole, oh, I'm a man trying to keep myself together for my friends. Oh, I've been confronted with this girl who clearly is responsible for the tragedy of Duska, even though she was 10. The man's an idiot. The man is a complete and utter fucking moron, and I don't care. I give a shit. By contrast, you've got the two other routes. You've got Rhea, who... No. I can't side with... Now, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I would side with Edelgard in a heartbeat. I also know that those who slither in the dark are way bigger monsters. Way bigger monsters than Rhea, but I cannot tolerate someone who actively promotes a false religion. A religion she has flat out been lying about for over 1,000 years. Enslaving pretty much thousands, if not millions of people over that period of time into believing a set of rules and a set of laws that make no sense. Just because she's afraid of humanity's potential. Now, don't get me wrong. The first time around, the humans, or the Agarthans, created missiles and killed her mother, which, fair enough, I would feel the same way, but at the same time, I can't sympathise with a character who has spent 1,000 years preventing technological development, who by extension is promoting a system that casts away people without specific genetic traits, just so that these other kids, and just the sheer volume of misery and suffering this fucking woman has caused, I couldn't give less of a fuck. So no, fuck the Church of Seros, and yeah, fuck Claude as well. Claude's unfortunate in that, unlike Dimitri and Edelgard, he's not interesting. he's not. And as a result, his route is very grounded in the backstory and history of everything, and he wants to know the truth. Why? We're never really given a clear indication as to why Claude cares so much about this continent, about fixing all these problems. I know why. He bails on a united Fodlan and goes and rules Almyra. Fine. Good for him. But at the same time, he's portrayed as mistrustworthy and a liar and a charlatan or whatever. But he isn't. He's just a guy who tells the odd white lie. And that's kind of jarring in a way. There's also the fact that he's not very charismatic. Dimitri, before he goes, all Shakespearean on us, is at least sympathetic. Or he's at least charismatic in a way where it's like, oh, okay, he's not boring. He's not a bland egg. He's at least got some depth to him. Oh, Edelgard has some very good charm and energy to her where you believe what she's saying. Even if a lot of it will kill a lot of people, and in a lot of ways is fucking hypocritical, it's still interesting. Claude isn't. And I think that's the biggest tragedy of Fire Emblem Three Houses. However, The characters across the board, brilliant. Brilliantly done. Even the ones who are about as deep as the shallow end of a swimming pool still have some depth to them that makes them actually interesting. I am talking about Raph. He's fucking boring. He's fucking boring. But then you've got people like Flane. Flane is interesting. Catherine is interesting. Alois. Geralt. And the history of Fodlan is so in-depth. Its world building is astounding. And it gets that physical emotion from me of, God, I hate Rhea, or fucking hell, Edelgard, what are you doing? Or bloody hell, Dimitri, grow a fucking pair and put your brain back together, you twat. Those strong emotions are there. And they're not hatred. They're just like, Jesus Christ. I'll be honest with you, I'm never going to finish this game in its entirety, just because I really don't want to sit through an entire route with Rhea, because I think I might eat my own face. But it's easily the best Fire Emblem game of them all. Which makes the following game infinitely more upsetting. Engage is what would happen if you took a Saturday morning cartoon with all the depth and complexity of a very, 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 very shallow puddle. Took all of the... It's basically the antithesis to this. This is a mature, well-written, well-character-driven, brilliantly paced game with very little gimmicked bullshit that emphasizes strategy and emphasizes, taking your time and picking your battles and doing this and doing that, as opposed to Engage, which goes, oh, why have we took all that development and threw it out the window? It's crap. It's crap. It is easily my least favourite game of this year. And that's saying something because I played Atomic Heart, which was crap. And I played Forspoken, which was equally crap. But those were just bad on a technical level. Those two weren't part of a huge franchise that I'm a big fan of the current games of. Especially the last one. I've never been more disappointed with a game than I have been with this. And a big part of it is its characters. Its characters are fucking terrible. They are fucking terrible. Only Yunaka is the good one, because she's got, some fucking depth to her outside of, I really like beans. I really like tea. I really like muscles. I really like how, I can't believe you work out, and I can't believe you don't work out and you have muscles. Like, fuck off. There's also the fact that the main character... What's the main character of Three Houses is as fucking bland and shit as any that have come before. At least they're not a moany, fucking mopey twat bag toothpaste head who lives in a floating island and just, in general, has some of the worst character design I've seen on anyone ever. This is why you shouldn't get VTuber designers to work on your fucking game. Just... Honestly, garbage. Absolute festering garbage. And I think the biggest part for me that means I will never play Engage again is its anti-turtling methods. There are many ways to prevent turtling in a game. There are many ways to prevent turtling in Fire Emblem. Conquest. Conquest has a map where you are being chased by these slow monsters up a flight of steps, and the idea is that you take out the ones on the steps to get to the top, right? Really intensive map. Really fucking good fun. Hard, but, fair. Engage, on the other hand, goes, oh, why have we took that well-paced design and well-paced gameplay and just threw endless enemies at them from every single direction and make it brutally unfair and shit on every fucking map. Now, yes, it's not every fucking map, but it's the vast majority. The vast majority. I think the final straw for me was when you get to kind of the last mission. You get to fighting... I don't care. You get to fighting the main character's mother, because she's been raised from the dead and turned evil, and you know what? It's as shit as it sounds. and go, oh yeah, let's do that, and let's give her an insta-hit kill move from anywhere on the map. And you have to hide behind very limited cover whilst being constantly spammed by endless enemies. Fuck off. Fuck off. What a viscerally miserable game. It's not fun, it's not funny, it's not so bad it's good, it's just legitimately terrible. And in the face of one of the single best Fire Emblem games we've ever fucking had, it is a fucking insult. Okay, maybe that's a stretch too far, but it's not good. It's hot, steaming, festering crap. And you know what? Good fucking riddance to it. I will never play that game again. It makes me physically sick to play it. That being said, there have been some good spin-offs. There has been some spin-offs that kind of, you know, fix that issue. I'll start with the first ever one I got, and that was Tokyo Mirage Sessions #FA. This is basically just Shin Megami Tensei meets Fire Emblem, and it's not a game for me. Unlike Disengage, I can tell this game isn't for me because it plays like a JRPG. And you know what? You like JRPGs? Go check it out. If you like Fire Emblem and Persona, you'll love this game. And good for you. But at the same time, yeah. Not my cup of tea, but far better than that absolute pile of crap. Another one. Now, I'm a big Hyrule Warriors fan, so when I found out there was a Fire Emblem one, I was very intrigued. In fact, I got this before I got back into Fire Emblem. So as a result, I didn't know half the characters, because most of them are from Fates, most of them are from Genealogy of the Holy War. And you know what? I didn't really get into Fire Emblem Warriors too much. It's good. I even bought the DS version for like £6. Can't play it because I don't have a new 3DS, but whatever. This version's perfectly acceptable and in a lot of ways better. However, we come back to stupid characters doing stupid things that knocked me on a cellular level. And that would be the two main leads, who are some of the biggest fucking morons I have ever seen in a Fire Emblem game. And that's saying something, because Engage's entire cast is made of thick. You get to a point in the game where it's revealed that their friend for so long, so many years, blah blah blah, big old stinky stupid traitor being possessed by a demon thing. They're like, oh, we're not gonna kill you. And I'm like, yes, fair enough. That's fine. If he wasn't being possessed by a demon that will destroy the world and is begging you to kill him, kill him. Put him out of his misery. Instead, we have to drag on for another map of whinging and whining and pathetic before he dies anyway. Yeah. But, gameplay, very solid. Not quite the same as Hyrule Warriors, and I can kind of tell I'm yet to find one that plays like Hyrule Warriors. None of the Nintendo Warriors games have really played like the original. Not even Age of Calamity, which is kind of a shame considering it's basically a sequel to the current Zelda. I think its characters aren't as interesting, but you can tell I was still having fun with it when my main was Giant Fairy. Anyway, big enough main in this, probably Camilla, and it's not the giant boobs. It's the big old death axe, and the fact that in pretty much every game she's in, she is ridiculous. She is easily one of the best units in pretty much any of them. That brings us to my final game, and kind of the one that it's Three Hopes. It's fine. It's just more Three Houses, and in a lot of ways better told. All of the routes are actually okay, even if I haven't done 2 of them, because I don't want to. I don't want to do 2 of them. I don't want to do Dimitri and I don't want to do Claw because I don't care. But Edelgard's route, the Black Eagle's route had a whole host of problems, mostly the distinct lack of polish and additional cutscenes that the game that route didn't have, despite being the single most interesting, which is a shame. But Three Warriors goes, right, so we're going to cut out the church route. That's very good. We're going to let you play as Edelgard. You get to play as, quite frankly, for a self-insert protagonist, extraordinarily well written. The name's Shez, but naturally I called them Shed, which has and continues to bring hours of amusement to me because they're just called Shed. And they have a dynamic similar to how Byleth and Sothis have in Three Houses, which is, they have a weird spectral child living in their brain who gives them magic powers. And unlike Byleth doesn't really talk in Three Houses, much to our detriment, but also to our benefit. That makes sense in the context of this particular game. In this one, Shed is a chatterbox, but they're a pragmatic mercenary who is remarkably insightful in a lot of peculiar ways, and also is apparently so incomprehensibly stupid they nearly got themselves killed 27 times over the period between the prologue and chapter 1, which I love. And I like that, unlike Byleth, Edelgard doesn't have this all-encompassing fascination and, quite frankly, woman crush on Shez, sorry. And I'd even argue better written than Three Houses in a lot of ways, but I think a lot of that comes from this one's character writing. But yeah. So yeah, guys, that is Fire Emblem as a whole for me. That's my whole Fire Emblem collection. I am aiming to get into some of the older ones, but I've been kind of put off by garbage as of late. So if there's any particular ones in the franchise you think I should get, let me know. I've been staring at Radiant Dawn and Path of Radiance recently. They seem okay. I'm not a huge fan of the permadeath in all the Fire Emblem games, which has kind of put me off playing a lot of them. But if they're any good, let me know. May give them a try. That'd be nice. But yeah, that's it for Fire Emblem, and that's it from me for this week. So that'll be me signing off.